Hello, dear students. I hope all of you are doing fine. Today we want to continue the exercises that are that follow. The lesson which was about skyscrapers. We completed exercise C last time, and today we need to finish up the rest of the exercises, and we're going to move on to exercise B. We did not do that last time. So in order to do the exercise so that it can be clearer to all of us, I want to enlarge the screen. Okay, so this question is like based on a good reading of the lesson, Skyscraper, the reading passage, guys. So I would advise you all to go back to the passage and read it again, if you must, let me say, and then we'll go and go ahead and answer the questions. So the first question is what? The first skyscraper was built in, when was the first skyscraper built? It was built, of course, in the late 19th century. It was not built in 1853, not in Tokyo. It was, remember guys, the Pulitzer building in New York. And the strange part is the strange, let me say, thing about this issue is that it was not built using the modern technological innovations that had to do with building and engineering. Okay, at that time. So yeah. Let's move on to the second question right now. It's impossible to build a skyscraper in stone. Because why we can't build, let's say, a skyscraper in stone? Because the lower walls would be too thick. That's the answer. Do you know what? Remember I just told you about the first, let me say, building that was, we can call it a skyscraper, I mean, but if we want to compare it with skyscrapers of nowadays, it's not really a skyscraper. That Pulitzer building was built using, let me say, stone and probably the, let me say, the materials that were old-fashioned when it comes to building. But let me say that the lower walls of the first floor were so thick, and I don't think, like the first floor could really be made use of in ways that, modern skyscrapers are used. All right. Now about question 3, let's take a look at it. Many European cities, what? We have 3 options. Were destroyed by earthquakes. Nope, that was not it. That's we have the second one, have only new buildings. No, they have new and old, right? So this is not also acceptable. How about have both old and new buildings? Yes, that's the true one. That's the right one. That's the correct one. So let me say, European cities have both old buildings, ancient buildings, and they have new buildings, or what we call modern buildings, or skyscrapers even. Let's move on to sentence 4. Or question 4, a building with steel beams, what about it? Does not need what? So a building with steel beams, like the modern buildings, let me say, does not need what? Thick walls, of course. So basically, any building that is built using the modern innovations, using modern technology, like using the steel beams, using metal, using let me say, any kind of new technology, let me say, of the modern era, does not really need thick buildings. Those that need thick walls. Those that need thick walls are ones that are built using, let me say, rock and mud, like our grandfathers and great grandfathers, houses. All right, let's move on to the next page, which has more exercises that are multiple choice exercises as well, 5. Sentence 5. Let's try to complete it. The first building with 60 floors was built on only, 4 years after a 50-story building. So we had a 50-story building, guys, which was built before the 60 floor building. And the difference in terms of timing, let me say, is only 4 years. Okay? So I went back to the passage and I realized that you go to page 146 at the top. The building that was built, earlier, which is the 50-story building. It was built in 1909. and the one that had 60 floors was built in 1913. So I'm looking at my book because that's I wrote my notes there. All right. Um, let's move on to question 6. As population increases, what happens? What increases as well? The number of skyscrapers increases too. All right. Yeah. So we have a large number of people. We have to make what available to them. We have to make residency, a place where they can live, available to them. And so, yeah, we need to build more skyscrapers. We need to have more skyscrapers built, I mean, all right? Okay, so it's B, as you can see uh, in the, let me say, in the book. 7, so sentence 7, what about it? We need to complete it. There weren't any skyscrapers in Tokyo for a long time. Why? Because of what? Of course, because of earthquakes. So until let me say recent times, modern times, engineers found a way where they can solve this problem where earthquakes would not destroy these high rises. And basically what they did was that they kind of placed this huge ball at the bottom of the building. And, whenever the earthquake took place, it kind of, its movement of sliding right and left kind of took in the movements and vibrations of the earthquake. And so the building would still stand, or buildings would still stand and not be destroyed. All right, now we want to move on to comprehension questions. Sentence number 1, or question number 1. So I just want to tell you something about these exercises. All these exercises, like after we're done with them, what I do is I send you guys a file of all the answers, just in case you did not catch up with me, you were unable to write correct sentences, or whatever problem you might have. I also send you guys the answers right after we finish, like discussing them. Okay, so no worries, guys. You also have them written down, the answers, in a file that is attached and sent to your e-learning. So look for that, please. Okay. What technological advancements made skyscrapers possible? We spoke a lot about these technological advancements, and we said they are what, using the metal beams, using steel, and those basically were, when they were used to build skyscrapers, they held, those skyscrapers still and high, and they could add as many as, let me say, floors as they wanted to. The people who built and wanted, skyscrapers, to be, or to exist. Let me say, I'm sorry. Question number 2. Why don't buildings with steel beams need thick lower walls? We said why. Because, skyscrapers do not need to have thick lower walls anymore, because they are built with steel beams. Okay, using steel beams means that it is possible to hold a high rise, and without, holding it through the lower walls, let me say. So they came like as an exchange. Steel beams exchanged what? The thick lower walls, honestly speaking. Okay. Name an advantage of building with thin lower walls. Of course, when you have thin lower walls, you have a lot of space, you have a lot of room. You can make use of the first floor, unlike in the past, guys. It could be made, the first floor could be, used as storage, as, even an apartment, a regular apartment. Some people live, don't mind living in the lower floors, let me say. Why does the text say that elevators were invented at just the right time? It's because, like elevators were invented like 2 or 3 years after, the first high rise was built. And so, they came in handy, let me say. All right. All right. About 5. What effect did the arrival of thousands of immigrants in the United States have on skyscrapers? Of course, The effect is that, you know, engineers started building more and more skyscrapers because they were easy to build, easier to build, let me say, faster to build. And, it's like, and they could make available residency, faster than, in this way, faster than building like houses for people, right? Yeah. And they were cheaper. They saved land as well. Don't forget about that. What is the tallest building in the world today? I don't know. I Googled it, honestly speaking. It is said that it is Khalifa Tower in UAE. What is the advantage of high-rise buildings? Remember, we said that high-rise buildings are skyscrapers. These are synonyms for each other. Over lower buildings, of course, I think all of you know that we just want to focus on the advantages, not the disadvantages. So the advantages of having high-rise buildings is that you can save time in building, you can save effort when building, you can save land, space, right? Yeah, and build, you can save a lot of money too, right? Because if you want to have your own house, you got to buy the land. You're gonna like take a lot of space. Maybe you're gonna have to, you even build your house on agricultural land, unfortunately. So let's move on to the next question, which is 8. Why can Japan have skyscrapers today when it couldn't before? Because I think we answered this question before. We said that in the past, Japan is like well known for having earthquakes. And in the past, there was no solution to this problem where, if an earthquake took place or happened, let me say, it would destroy, the higher buildings, let's say. But let me say, engineers found a way where if they built high rises and an earthquake took place, it would not be, these skyscrapers would not be destroyed. And that is by placing balls, metal balls underneath the building, so when the impact of an earthquake took place, it kind of sucked in the movement, and, these buildings were not destroyed anymore because of the movement. 9, do you think people would use 200-story buildings? What is your reason? Of course, they would, okay, because basically, if it were cheaper, if it offered, let me say, residency, which is not that expensive and which has a lot of, room and space, let me say. It depends, guys, on the situation of the consumer or the person who would like to live in such, let me say, a building. So it depends on the new circumstances of the generation, honestly speaking. Anyway, generally speaking, it says, what do you think? So this is my opinion. I still think that, skyscrapers are going to be in demand because as we read before in previous texts, let me say, land that is suitable for human beings' use, is becoming less and less. And so skyscrapers save, this kind of land, honestly speaking. We need it. All right. All right. Let's move on to the main idea questions. All right. So the first question is, which sentence gives the main idea in paragraph 3? I think one time I told you about how we can find them, how you and or me or anybody could find the main idea. Usually when a paragraph is written, the first sentence is considered what? It should contain, let me say, the main idea, because when we teach students who write paragraphs, what do we tell them? State the basic, let me say, argument, let me say, in your first sentence. All right. So you should like include in the first sentence like a summary of what the whole paragraph is all about, right? So that's really called the main idea. And usually even in the last sentence, we also advise our students to write a concluding sentence, which is really like the topic sentence, which is the first sentence, which is a kind of repetition but rephrasing of what was said in the topic sentence or the first sentence, which again is another way to summarize the content of the whole paragraph. Anyway, it says, which sentence gives the main idea in paragraph 3? So we want to go to paragraph 3, lines 20 to 27. That's where I'm going right now. Listen to me reading it. It took two important technological advancements to make real skyscrapers possible. The first advancement was the mass production of iron and steel. The second was the production of lightweight metal beams. In the 1880s, architects started using these beams to support the walls of buildings. These buildings didn't need thick walls at the base, so they could be much taller. All right. So basically, what is the main idea? It sure is in the first line of the paragraph, which is it took two important technological advancements to make real skyscrapers possible. So this is what the whole text is about. All right. Now, the second, let me say, question asks this same question, which is the main idea about lines 41 to 46. And then we have paragraph 6. So that's where I'm going right now. Listen to this. There were other problems that architects and engineers had to solve. They had to figure out, see, they're giving examples about, problems that they had to solve. They had to figure out a way to get water to all the floors. They had to prevent the buildings from moving too much in the wind. In addition, they wanted to make the buildings as beautiful as possible. So these are problems they had to deal with. And the first sentence, which is the topic sentence, which is what the main idea says what? There are other problems that architects and engineers had to solve. So basically, this is the main idea. And it is, if you want to summarize, dealing with problems. Architects had to deal with problems and they had to solve those problems. Let me say deal and solve. Deal means even solve or at the same time. All right. Now we want to move on to question 3. Again, the main idea. And they ask for the main idea in paragraph 7, lines 47 to 52. Listen to this. At the same time that architects were designing the first high-rise buildings, thousands of immigrants were entering the United States from Europe. These people, needing housing and tall buildings, could provide plenty of it in the cities. Before long, skyscrapers were rising in cities across the United States. So, as you can see, the main idea is where it is in the first line, which is the topic sentence. At the same time, the architects were designing the first high-rise buildings, thousands of immigrants were entering the United States. Got it? This is the topic sentence, or what we call, and in it resides the main idea of the whole paragraph. And that is, having to design high-rises at the time that immigrants were entering the United States of America. Okay? Now, the last question is also about the main idea of or is it not? No, it's not. It's, do you think people would use 200-story buildings? Oh, I'm sorry. Write a sentence that gives the main idea of the last paragraph. Okay, I messed up. All right, I'm sorry about that, guys. Sorry. Let me erase this. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Main idea of the last paragraph. They don't, because they didn't give me a paragraph line or number. So yeah, listen to the last paragraph. We have the technology for skyscrapers, but do we really need them or want them? With the invention of computers, a company doesn't need to have all its offices in one huge building. People can communicate by computer from offices spread all over the city or even from their homes. And do we want 200-story buildings? Do people want to work and live that far above the ground? The architects and engineers who are planning these new skyscrapers have to think about these questions, or they may build buildings that no one will use. So what is this all about? Okay, so the writer basically is saying that, the features of the workplace are, are changing. And so probably we won't be needing skyscrapers anymore as we did before, because people can work from home. Now it's all about not being at work. It's more about doing the work. It doesn't matter where you do it from. Okay, so this is like something that we should think about. That's what the writer thinks. Alrighty, so we need to move on to the next exercise, I think, which is on page 150, I guess. Yes, it is on page 150, because That was 149, and now we want to move on to 150. So let me enlarge this and share with you my new page. Let me say, here it is. Here it goes. I hope you can see this. Let me just enlarge it a bit. Here we go. So we have a table, and all of you guys are used to this table. It's not like it's the first time you've seen such a table. So we've got here what? We've got some verbs, and some nouns, and some adjectives, and some adverbs, all right? So we don't have to find what the verb is or the noun is or the adjective is. It's already, you know, done for you. All we want to do is just read them, make sure that we know what these words mean, and then make use of them in order to complete sentences here, like here at the bottom, as you can see. See? All right. So the verbs that we have are, you know, as you can see, we have the verb compare, and it really means to compare means to find similar or dissimilar, let me say, characteristics among things. We compare, we try to find what's similar, what's not similar among things. And then we have the same verb, but into a noun, changed into a noun, which is comparison. To compare, we say, I compared his brother and his sister to each other. The comparison was, you know, really successful because they are of the same age, probably of the same family. So the idea of comparing and trying to find similar and dissimilar ideas, that's what it means here. Comparativism is the adjective. Sometimes we describe nouns or adjectives as comparative adjectives. Like when you say bigger. Bigger is not just a regular adjective, it's a comparative adjective because I'm comparing between two items in their qualities, you know, and so that's why I say that. Comparatively is an adverb, okay? So we use it. So I say, for example, this bottle, this thing is comparatively small. So it's an adverb. It kind of describes what I want to say, right? Or the way something is done, let me say. Please is a verb. He pleased me. He made me feel, you know, happy. That's what it means over here. So that's what. So it's taken from, like, you know, making you satisfied and happy. Honestly speaking, so pleasure is to be in that state of satisfaction and happiness. Sometimes we describe things as pleasant. You know, he's a pleasant person. If he's not pleasant, we say he's unpleasant. And then the adverb, the way something is, you know, done, or let me say, you know, works. So we say pleasantly, all right? Ly, the adverb usually, or unpleasantly. Then we have the verb add. That is like to calculate, to add things to each other, you know, that is to accumulate, let me say. يجمع, to add. Addition, اللي هي عملية الجمع, right? In Arabic we say that. So addition is like to put things together, to add them with each other. Additional is the adjective. This is an additional point sometimes, or an additional idea, like an extra. So we describe such an idea or point as additional. And additionally is the adverb. As you can see, the ly. Most adverbs have ly ending with, you know, endings, let me say. Not all of them, but I mean, like, as you can see with these words, you know, these the words all have ly at the end. So let's move on to advantage. It does not have a verb, okay, or disadvantage. It's a noun only here, as you can see, and then you can make an adjective out of it. You say advantages, right? Advantage, hasane, hasanat, right? Disadvantage. Disadvantages is the opposite, right? You know? And as an adjective, we say advantageous or disadvantageous, right? So like being or taking English 105 is really advantageous, sorry, is really what? Advantageous, okay? And then the adverb of it is advantageously or disadvantageously. Based on what you want to say, you use one of them. Prevent means to stop. Prevention is like stopping something from happening or preventing it from happening, right? Prevention. Okay, that's the noun of it. And then preventive. Sometimes we say the teacher took preventive measures. So we described measures as preventive, right? Yeah. Immigrate means to travel. To the verb, from your country, your mother country probably, to another, seeking your fortunes and wanting to move on to a different place, probably forever, basically, because you think that the country that you came from, although it might be your country, really, your native land, was not really that helpful in terms of your growth, in terms of your aims and expectations, and so on. So immigration is a noun here, and it's the process of immigrating. You know that. Immigrant has to do with the person himself who traveled from his mother country to another, seeking his fortunes and so on. Now, the adjective is, we can say immigration office. So here, immigration serves not just as a noun, it serves, as an adjective, all right? So it is a noun, but, it could function as an adjective also as well. And an immigrant could do the same. The word immigrant can be the same. Um, an immigrant citizen, maybe something like that. All right. So it describes the first noun, describes the second noun, and ends up being an adjective. All right. Popularize, to make popular, to make known. That's what it means, right? And then popularity means, it's a noun that is being known, being recognized, etc. We describe something as popular. For example, when you say Brad Pitt is a popular actor, right? So popular, actor. Actor is the noun and popular is the adjective, as you can see. Enclose means to put something in, inside, like something else, which shuts it or imprisons it. Let me say, like let me say a fence. Yeah. Enclosure, we describe something as an enclosure that is, closing down on something. All right, an enclosure. It is something that closes down on, or is, like a gate that closes down on something else. Enclosed is the adjective. We say an enclosed pond, all right, that is surrounded or something of that kind. Where is it? And we're done with, I'm sorry, this section. Let's move on to the last section, which has the word strengthen. To strengthen means to make strong, to make more powerful. Noun. The noun of it is strength. I have a lot of strength. Sometimes we say strength means power, right? And strong, we describe somebody as strong. Sometimes we say, or something as strong. So it's an adjective. Strongly is used most of the time. I strongly believe, right? So it has to do with describing sometimes here what the verb, the way the verb is done. We might want to use, strongly in that manner. Okay. Now, after this discussion, we need to move on to the sentences, and we have to try to make use of the words that we have just talked about and discussed. It's a good idea, guys, when trying to guess what word goes where. Let me say, to think of the space, what is before it, what is after it, right? Let's read sentence one. Spanish spelling is. Is easy. Here is an adjective, all right? Because after is, you can put an adjective. Easy to learn. Huh? What can we put before this adjective? Comparatively easy, because adverbs are words that are used to show, reveal how something is done. Okay, so Spanish spelling is what? Comparatively easy to learn. Maybe if you compare it to English or any other language, right? By comparison, by, because after by is a preposition. Prepositions are followed by nouns. So if you want to take a look, you want to take a look at the list of nouns that you have, and you have to choose one which is suitable, which completes this in terms of its meaning now. Because it's a noun, you got to choose it from among these, but you have to choose one which is also suitable in terms of meaning, right? Okay, so it was when we have we need a noun here no matter what. It was what to meet you? Of course, a pleasure to meet you. It was what? A pleasure to meet you. It's a noun. Then let's move on to 3. People who are afraid to fly don't like being closed in. Yeah, people who are afraid to fly in general, they don't want to be caged or inside, places. I don't know, but this is their way of expressing how scared they are of flying, or or not showing that they're scared of flying. Anyway, in addition, they sometimes fear heights and don't understand the technology of flying. So it seems that there has been a study that revealed that. Remember, in addition, we'll talk about another idea about people who are afraid to fly. Okay? So let's move on to 4. What can you do to what? To. We have to what? To write, to read, to advance. We need a verb here. To advance in your profession, to get better in your profession, right? That's what it means. So we take a look, guys, like I said, at the verbs. What can you do to compare in your profession? No, to please in your, see? So we have to also find something that's suitable after we know that a verb goes here is suitable, in terms of meaning to that, and that completes this question, right? It is advantageous. So after is, we can put an adjective, all right? What is it? Advantages to do what? To learn English. Are there any disadvantages now? There any disadvantages? This is a question. To learning. So basically, this is how we complete such a sentence. Let's flip this page and let's enlarge it and continue, doing the rest of the questions that we have here. All right. So sentence 6, providing preventive medicine. You know what? Like I wrote this down here in Arabic. See, liqah, and in English, vaccine. What could be a preventive medicine? That is like medicines that we take before something actually happens to us, or before a disease actually happens to us, or infects our body. So it could be a vaccine, like what we give the kids nowadays, like the coronavirus vaccine that Russia has come up with. Let me say, maybe that's what we're going to take soon. Who knows? Why providing preventive medicine, an adjective, is better than helping people who what after they are sick. So this is like really hard, so harder than this, right? Yeah, so before the sickness actually happens, we want to prevent it. When we have we need a noun. The immigration office, this is an adjective which originally is a noun, but here it came to describe the word office, so it's an adjective. The immigration office is open from which time to which time? From 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The farmer put his sheep in an what? Enclosure. Or we could say enclosed place, enclosed, let me say, piece of land. But since there's nothing else, so we have to use the noun here, because an needs a noun, and we don't have one over here because right after that we have for the night. So he put the sheep in an enclosure for the night. And the last sentence, I agree with you. How do I agree with you? Strongly. So we need an adverb why, because we want to describe how this person agrees with another. All right. Okay, let's stop here for a minute and then we will resume the rest, resume and finish up the rest of the exercises. Okay, now we want to move on to exercise H, which is the 2-word verbs. And remember, guys, we call this kind of exercise what? The phrasal verb exercise. All right. So we need to know what check-in means, what breakdown means, what workout means, in order to use them to complete sentences, okay? Usually these, phrasal verbs, they come instead of regular verbs that are in English, all right? Let me say that are also used in English, synonyms to them. Anyway, let's read the first sentence. There was a long line waiting to check in at the airport. So people who go to the airport to travel from one country to another, what do they have to do before they actually, take off or get into their plane even, they need to check in at the airport. That means they have to go to this, let me say, they have to line up in front of, you know, a desk where, you know, everything is taken care of and everything is checked like before they actually get onto the plane. Sentence two, a large truck, what happened to it, broke down on the highway. What does that mean? Broke down means stopped working. Here it's in the past, as you can see, because breakdown in general means what? That it stopped working and it needs repairing or so on. Sentence three, Alice goes to the gym every weekend to do what? Why would somebody go to the gym? To work out. That is to exercise, all right? She might use the tools, the equipment there in order to exercise. Then we have sentence four, or question even four. It's in the form of a question. Do you have enough money, what? To live on or live off? Look, I have this note here that both are fine, both work, and they give the same meaning. So to live on or to live off. What does that mean? That the money that you have is enough so that you can spend and use, and you don't need anybody to help you out financially. Then we have sentence five, or question five. Could you help me out this weekend? That means what? To help someone out means to help and make them, you know, feel good with the kind of work that is accomplished. And, you know, two hands, as they say, are better than one. That is because, you know, more work gets done. All right, let's move on to sentence six. Fixing my car turned into an all-day job. Did it ever happen to you guys that you thought that maybe you would want to do something on a certain day, and you know it wouldn't take like a lot of time from you, like it would take like half an hour or an hour at most, and all of a sudden you realize that, you know what, this thing is taking all day from me. Yeah, and so this just happened to somebody over here in this sentence. So fixing his car or her car, you know, did not take an hour or two. It took all day for this, you know, activity, which is fixing the car, to be done. Well, it's better than having it, you know, let me say, still not repaired by the second day or third day, isn't it right? So anyway, seven. Next, Mr. Brown is working too hard. Too hard is not a good way to describe something because it's too much. That means because the outcomes could be negative, and has to slow down. He has to what? Work slower. Just because he might be, let me say, not really assisting himself. He might be, you know, this might make him sick and get, you know, or like, let me say, hurt himself. All right. So eight, Jean had to drop out of school and get a job. Drop out means to leave, and usually people who are forced to drop out of school, it has to do with, you know, suffering from financial circumstances, not having somebody there to aid you or assist you financially. And I hope that never happens to any of you guys. Children don't like to put away their toys when they finish playing. Yeah, you know, if you leave a child, you know, if you don't tell a child, let me say, do not put your toys away, maybe they will leave all their toys out and never put them away because they know, they're clever, that you will do that on their behalf. Okay, Bob was an hour late because he what? Ran out of gas. Oh my gosh. Well, he should have, you know, filled his car with gas. So when we say ran out of gas, that means he did not have any more gas. Now, another popular exercise that we have done before is the one that has to do with articles, thinking about whether we need an article here or not in the spaces. And if we do need an article, what is it going to be? The, a, or an, or what? Okay, let's take a look at sentence number one. In 1998, the Petronas Towers in Malaysia became the tallest building in the world. Why did I choose to put the over here? Because part of the name of Petronas Towers is the article the, okay? And then here I decided not to put any article because Malaysia does not need an article. Okay, we said that countries that have that are made of or composed of one word, you know, do not need the article the. And then over here, the tallest building. Why did I put the? Just because we said that the superlative always needs the before. The superlative adjective Like part of its structure is that we say the tallest, the biggest, the shortest, right? The most beautiful, the most common, all right? So superlatives are, one of the, let me say, basic structures of them is having the article the. Building in the world. So when we said when there is one of a kind of whatever noun, we use the. So we don't have many worlds. We have this world that we, live in, and we must look after. And so we need to place the because it's unique. There's nothing really like it. There are other planets, but they aren't like our world. And so our world is unique. That's why before the word world, we have the. Let's move on to sentence 2. For centuries, the tallest buildings were made of stone. Okay, so why did I put the before tallest? Again, the same reason that I mentioned before is, repeated, and that is tallest here is superlative, and so we need to put the. It's an adjective, which is considered what? In the superlative form, and when we form the superlative, we need to put the plus the adjective plus est in adjectives that are made of, short syllables or small or one syllable words. And then we have here just stone. We don't have anything before. Why? Because I'm talking about stone in general. It's a material, a substance, which we talk about in general most of the time, like this house is made of stone and brick and I don't know what. And so when we talk about brick and stone, no need for any article. Now, let's move on to sentence 3. Listen to this. In the 1880s, so we have nothing here, architects started using these beams to support the walls of buildings. So, why do I have the here? Because whenever I say the 1880s, the 1990s, the 2000s, in general, this phrase or this, number, let me say, which marks, let me say, a period of time always is preceded by the. So like I said, the 1990s, the 1880s, the 1760s, all right? These with the S here, we always have the preceding that, all right? And here, architects, why? Because it's plural, and we're talking about architects in general, okay? To support what? The walls of buildings. Which buildings are we talking about? It's like here, we know the buildings that we're talking about, and I just wrote this down for you a minute ago, which is what the buildings that we mean here are specific ones, not just any random building or buildings. They are the skyscrapers, the modern skyscrapers, all right? All right, let's move on to 4. Elisha Otis invented what? The safety elevator, okay? Not just any elevator, a specific kind of elevator. It's called the safety elevator. That's like part of its name, a specific kind of elevator, okay? So when we talk about specific things, we use the. And first showed it to whom? Not just any public, the public, which her public probably, okay? The public that is in America, and they moved this, let me say, innovation on to other countries and so on. In, look, 1853. So there is no S like this, all right? And so we have nothing. So we say, I was born in 1978. I was born in 1979. I was born in 1968, all right? So basically, when we talk about in and the year, we have nothing before it in this manner, all right? Let's move on to sentence 5. In 1931, the Empire State Building, so this is part of the name, guys. The is part of the name. The Empire State Building all goes together. You can't say Empire State Building by itself. This is just an essential part of the whole name. In New York, again, New York, we consider it like one word, although we do have a space here, but still, this city does not need any kind of article before it. Was finished, it was 102 stories high. All right, move on to the last sentence. Let me read it for you, and then we'll talk about it. With the invention of computers, comma, a company doesn't need to have all its offices in one huge building, all right? So with the invention, right, we're talking about not, you can't say with invention. It's a specific invention. What is that specific invention? What is it? Of computers. We don't need anything here because, usually when we have prepositions like this, we need nouns directly right after them. A company, like any company, like an example, all right, doesn't need to have all its offices in one huge building. And now we are done with the exercise on articles, and we are so happy now. We're gonna do the last exercise. All right, let me just enlarge this page so that we can do the last exercise. Let's take a look at this. Summarizing. What does summarizing mean? That is to, like rewrite what you have read in, let me say, shorter sentences, less commentary, less words, right? In Arabic, we call this talkhis. So we want to do that. I've already done that for you, as you can see. Paragraph 1, lines 1 to 10. Of course, I'm just going to read this one. I'm not going to read all of these, all right? Just do one example for you, and you can read the rest. So paragraph 1, which is from lines 1 to 10. See, I have my book, and I'm going to open up on, 1 to 10. Listen to this. In 1998, the Petronas Towers in Malaysia became the tallest building in the world, stealing the #1 spot from the Sears Tower in Chicago. 4 years later, in 2003, the Taipei 101 building in Taiwan stole the title from the Petronas Towers. It seems that no skyscraper can hold the title of the world's tallest building for a very long time. But how high can a skyscraper go? Some experts believe that a mile-high building, 5,280 feet, or 1,609 meters, is possible with the technology we now have, or we have nowadays. All right, so this is the paragraph. So basically, if you really think about this line that is in this whole paragraph, which is what it seems that no skyscraper can hold the title of the world's tallest building. Honestly speaking, I would say that this is the best sentence that we can use to summarize the whole, paragraph. Because basically what the writer is saying is that, no skyscraper can, hold this title. And then he gives examples on skyscrapers that were the highest, and then they no longer were the highest, and there were new skyscrapers which were higher, and they became the highest, and so on. Got it, guys? Let's move on to the second, paragraph. It says, paragraph 2, lines 11 to 19. You got to read the whole thing. I'm not going to do it this time. You do it. But I would say that to summarize, we can say that, what is it? Title, the world's tallest building, in the past, is it? Let me go over it. Okay, paragraph 2. Let me just take a look. For centuries, the tallest buildings were made of stone. The base or lower walls of a tall building had to be very thick in order to support the upper walls. The taller the building was, the thicker the lower walls had to be. One of the tallest buildings in the late 19th century was the 14-story Pulitzer building in New York. To support the upper walls of the building, the stone walls at the base were 9 feet thick. So basically, this paragraph is all about, having thick walls at the on the first floor in order to support, other floors that come on top. And this was like an old method of building. All right, so I can summarize it in that way. Okay, now we want to take a look at paragraph 5, 34 to, although I said I'm not going to do 2 or 3, but it seems I'm doing it, right? Okay, let me just be helpful and nice to you guys. Paragraph 5, lines 34, okay. Let's see the last paragraph. Okay. However, there was still one problem. How would people get to the top floor of a tall building? The solution, of course, was the elevator. Elisha Otis invented the safety elevator and first showed it to the public in 1853. By the 1880s, there were elevators run by electricity, which were fast and light enough to use in skyscrapers. They were developed at just the right time. So this paragraph is all about, using the invention. Here it is, the invention of elevators, and they coming at the right time because they solved the issue and problem of getting to the highest floor, or higher floors quickly and easily. All right, and that's it, guys. I don't know. I think I told you guys that I'm going to ask you before the end of the semester to do a new, let me say, kind of homework. And I thought about this one over here. So I want you to read this, which is, do you think we should continue to build higher and higher buildings? Why or why not? So please answer this question in the form of a paragraph. I'm going to post it for you on e-learning sometime soon. and then you can fill in your answer there and send it to me via e-learning. Do not send it to my email, please. If you can send it via e-learning, but don't do it now. Do it when I post the homework, okay, exercise. All right, and we're done with this unit, guys. You have a great day, and I will meet with you in the next video. And when I do meet with you in the next video, we're going to begin our last unit, our last lesson, let me say, which has to do with what? Biospheres in space. I'll try my best to record it for you, by the end of tomorrow. So, guys, have a great weekend. Bye bye.